there are only 3 ways to increase sales. Now, there is a very obvious way. If we were all on a sales team, okay, and I say, guys, we need to increase sales, what would be one of the most obvious ways that one of the most obvious strategies that we would use to try to increase sales? What do you think? There's no wrong answer here, Ben. What? New accounts. New account. Okay, great. Exactly. There you go, right on. Find new customers, right? If you want to double sales, one of the most obvious ways that we can double sales is we can double the number of customers. Now, I imagine that most people here do not want to necessarily right away double the number of customers. With that comes a lot of work, a lot of energy. You have to build more infrastructure, all of that. There are 2 other ways to increase sales. Anyone else have a guess?
Get more from the same accounts.
You're on fire, Mike. Okay, good. So the next is to increase the average transaction size. Okay, so by increase average transaction size, I mean if your typical sale right now is $100,000, if you can increase that average transaction size by even 10, 20%, that will have, one, an enormous impact on your bottom line, right? Because that's basically all money on top. Now, there are 2 ways, by the way, to increase the transaction size. One is to increase prices, but the other is to have additional products or services that can go in with whatever your salespeople are offering to increase that transaction size. So offering more value to your clients or your prospects, and at the same time, increasing that transaction size. As we go through this, think about, in your world, how can you be increasing that transaction size? We'll be talking about strategies, of course, to do that, but what are some ways, as you're going through this, to increase that transaction size, either by increasing prices or by piling on more products or services with a typical sale? And then the last piece is to, and people often don't think about this, is to increase the frequency of purchase. How frequently are our clients purchasing from us on average? Now, this is averages, so that doesn't mean that, I'm not talking about, you might have some clients and you'll say, oh, well, we only do, with a certain client, we can only do 1 a year. That's fine. I'm talking about averages. Would everyone, who here would say that they have had a client at one point that has done business with them and has never come back, has disappeared? Have you ever had that? Show of hands. Come on, show me the armpits. Don't be shy. Okay, so we've all had that. Now, if you have strategies to keep those people in your net, then all the better. Someone's trying to figure out their cell phone there. That's all right.
I wouldn't answer it either. That's a ridiculous rate.
So how can we be increasing the frequency of purchase? We'll talk today about what those strategies look like. So let me put this all together for you now. I'm going to share with you now the 2X formula. This is actually a math formula. So for my people who are not math people, hang in there with me. I know not all of us love math, but one thing that I found is that selling and sales, particularly from a management perspective, is all about numbers. It is about a certain number. Inputs in bring whatever, outputs out. That didn't sound pretty, but you know what I mean. So even if you're uncomfortable with the math, like my old mentor used to say, identify your fear, face it anyways, just like this little guy, okay? Okay, so the 2X formula is this. And for my note takers, this might be worth writing down. You want to, in order to double the number of sales, 2X sales, you need to increase the number of customers.
You'll send me the presentation so we can put it up on the
Yeah, I'll send you some of those slides, yeah. You need to increase, this thing's going crazy on me. Hold on. You need to increase the number of customers by 26%. 26% is the magic number. You need to increase the transaction size by 26%. And then you need to increase the frequency of purchase, I don't know why this is going crazy, by 26%. So all you need to do is increase each of those areas to double sales by 26%. Now let me do a little example for you because I know it'll make it a little bit more concrete. So can I get an example of someone here? Who here bought something, let's say for the holidays, a fun purchase for a family member or something, something that was a fun purchase that they bought? Come on, don't be shy. Shy group.
No, they're just not fun people.
Not fun. What do we got? What'd you buy? iPad, kayak, wait, just anyone buy something fun? A bike? You didn't buy anything? No. iPad, okay, cool. And what's your name, sir? Mark. With a K? All right. I'm sensitive to that. So Mark decides that, you know what, this business, not that fun, so he wants to start an iPad retail store. I'm going to use a very, very basic example. And he's selling iPads out of his store, and after the course of a year, we meet together, and he says, this is my business, Mark. So Mark's business is this. Okay. Mark has 100 customers. The typical transaction size is $1,000. And on average, people are purchasing one time per year. Okay? So these are higher end iPads. These are kind of blinged out a little bit, and they got some sparkly stuff on them, okay? So, great. So, after the course of a year, what are Mark's revenues? We multiply these three numbers, and what do we get? 100K. Exactly. He's got a 100K business. Excellent. So Mark says, well, I want to double sales. And I say, okay, fine. There are a few ways that you can do it. One is we could increase the number of customers over the course of a year from 100 to 200. Very big task, right? We could increase the transaction size, the average transaction size, from $1,000 to $2,000. Again, unrealistic. Or finally, we can get people to buy twice as often. So instead of buying one time a year, they buy twice a year. Again, a very difficult thing to do. Any of these alone are very hard. But if we apply the 2x formula to this, to Mark's business, then now we can do it in a way that's a little bit more gradual. One thing that I find is selling is about tweaking a few key things. You get your people changing a few key things and in the right areas, and that's how we get that explosive growth. So instead, we get him to apply the 2x formula, and Mark's business now, after the course of a year, this is what I want you to do. Increase the number of customers by 26%. So instead of 100 customers, it's what? 126 customers, exactly. Instead of the average transaction size being $1,000, it's what? $1,260. Excellent. And finally, instead of buying one time a year, they're buying how often? This is a little trick here. 1.26 times per year. And by the way, that comes out to once every 9.5 months, for anyone that's curious. When we do that, and we multiply 126 times 1,260 times 1.26, his business, Mark's business, now becomes $200,037. You see that? No drastic change to the business, but if we can tweak a few of those key areas, you can literally double sales.